Oak Island Town Council meeting, the special meeting and joint meeting with Town of Caswell Beach is now called to order. And as Mayor of Oak Island, I'd like to say I'm very excited to see as many of you here tonight that are. We're going to have a very productive presentation from our Department of Transportation. And we welcome Caswell Beach. And at this time, I'm going to turn the meeting over so Caswell Beach can open their meeting.
Okay. Thank you very much, and at this time we'd like to open the meeting for Caswell Beach also, and to thank everyone from Caswell Beach for coming, and thank you for Oak Island for inviting us to be here, and especially to DOT for coming for the presentation. So, shall we go forward?
Yes, we will. I'd like to welcome Chad Climbs, and I'm sorry, I didn't even get the, who's with you, Chad? I'll let you do the introduction. To do a presentation from the DOT. I'd like to tell you a little bit how we're going to proceed tonight. First, the DOT is going to give their presentation or their PowerPoint. I'm asking that no questions be asked during that or no comments. We'll let them finish. After their presentation, we have President of the Chamber of Commerce, Karen Spa, will give a short little summary of some things they're working on to try to offset the economic impact of the closing. And then we're going to turn the floor over to you guys who've come to ask questions. If we don't know the questions, we will find the answer and get back to you. So we're going to ask you to state your name and your address. When our town manager, David Kelly, will bring the microphone to you, just simply raise your hand. And don't be afraid to ask any questions or comments or anything for either the DOT or the council, or if you have just a general question, we'll ask someone in the audience. We've invited several different, I think some of the counties here maybe. I don't know, is anyone here from the county? And we'll find someone in the audience that can answer your question. We have our fire chiefs and our emergency services and our chief of police is here as well. And so same as Caswell. Welcome. All right, Chad, the floor is yours.
Good evening. All right, with me is Kevin Bowen here. He's our division construction engineer. He's also going to assist with the presentation. And we also have Karen Collette. She's our division engineer. Karen.
I'm sorry, Karen. I did see you there, but it didn't dawn on me who you were.
So that's the representatives from the DOT. All right, I'm going to first touch on the High Value Bridge Program and talk to you a little bit what that is about. And then we're going to get into more specific about the Oak Island Barbie Bridge preservation. That is a key word that I want everybody to take away from this evening is the word preservation or rehab. This is 100% preservation or a rehab project. So what is a high-value bridge? A high-value bridge, there are 200 of these bridges located in North Carolina. There's a total of 13,500 bridges in North Carolina, but 200 of those are considered high value. And the high value comes in with replacement costs. Any bridge that has a replacement cost that exceeds $20 million is considered high value. And as everybody can imagine, Southeast North Carolina has a large portion of these 200 bridges. With the Oak Island Bridge, they provide key connectivity in our transportation system, and they serve as an evacuation route. So in 2017, the General Assembly, they passed close to $160 million to help preserve some of these bridges. I'm going back to the preservation word again. This money was allocated for us in this year, in 2018 and 2019. So we had to act pretty fast on this money that was granted to us. This chart here, I'm going to go through this really quick, but this gives a really good indication on what we're trying to accomplish here. You see the condition versus the age. And basically everybody knows once a bridge has just been built, being new, the condition is good. You'll see there's three categories there: a good condition, a fair condition, a poor condition. Right in the center of that curve is where the Barbie Bridge is located. It's in that part of the curve. If you wait a few more years, then we'll be talking replacement, and then we're looking at a cost of $70 to $80 million versus today's rehab costs or preservation costs of between 6 and 7 million. So if we're able to do the preservation project, or once we do that preservation project this coming fall, it goes back up to the good condition and it stays at that good condition for several years. We anticipate once this work is complete, it will extend the life of that bridge anywhere between 25 and 50 years before it needs replacement. So one of the main questions that's been asked in the last couple of weeks, what's the hurry? And that's the reason I put this map up here. The hurry, and I want to make this part clear too, there's not any immediate danger to the existing structure. But since those funds were allocated for 2018-2019, this bridge was going to be slated to do work in 2019. But does anybody know? Well, I'm not going to ask the question. But the reason why we accelerated it is because of the 211 widening project from Midway Road back to Southport. We have 2 interchanges that's going to occur on this project at the Midway and Long Beach. And those interchanges, we did not want to conflict this project with those interchanges. So we're getting this bridge accomplished a year prior to these interchanges. I'm going to let Kevin Bowen is going to get more into the details on what's going on with the bridge and what to look forward to in the next year.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. Can everyone hear me okay? Okay. Just some of the details on the bridge, just to give you some of the background if you're not familiar with the history on it or some of the existing dimensions and things like that. Obviously, it's NC 133 or the Intercoastal Waterway. The bridge is approximately 0.8 of a mile long. It services the east end of the island, of course. The average daily traffic is about 12,000 cars or 12,000 vehicles, and the current condition, as Chad indicated, was fair. The bridge was built in 1972. Chad indicated before that the estimated replacement cost is about $71 million today. Some of the rehabilitation needs, and I'll get into some pictures and try to describe for you some of the issues that are happening with the existing bridge and some of the things that we need to do to it and why we need to close it. But some of those needs are we need to replace the approach spans, the 28 spans on the island end of the bridge. So if you drive over that bridge every day, it's the flat part of the bridge when you first get onto the bridge there before you get to the high rise that goes over the Intercoastal Waterway. So those 28 spans are the ones that we really need to take care of, and I'll show you those photos. We need extensive concrete repairs, and this picture actually helps demonstrate what we call 2 major components of the structure. The substructure is the vertical supports that you see in the photo there, and then the spans are the superstructure. So the substructure is down below the water, the foundation, everything, and the vertical supports, the superstructure is up top. We have extensive concrete repair needs in both of those, the substructure, the foundation, everything that's exposed there. And we have some needs, of course, in the superstructure as well. So there are a number of things that are needed here. And again, as Chad mentioned earlier, there's nothing that's imminent as far as a danger to the public with regard to the bridge. But there are things that we need to address now before they get worse or before they become a major problem. And the other thing that we need is a bridge deck overlay. So with the new replacement spans, we'll provide a new overlay for traffic to ride on. It'll ride better. We're also going to replace the riding surface on the high-rise portion of the bridge as well. And there are a number of other things that we're going to do, but I'll show you some of those. Sorry, one more thing here. Chad's already mentioned these details. Cost of rehab between 6 and 7 million. Life extension, like Chad said, 25 to 35 listed here, but we've seen numbers as high as 50, depending on, it's hard to predict how things are going to react 50 years from now or how they're going to be in 50 years. So current conditions. So the photo here is to show you, this is underneath one of the 28 spans on the island end of the bridge. And these beams are called cord slabs. This is a design that we still use today. It has hollow cores down the center of it, but these beams butt against each other, side by side. They're stacked, and they are tensioned. We run a cable through the center of them, and I know it's hard to tell in this photo, but this is standing underneath the span and looking up underneath the bridge. But we tension those cables and tighten all of these individual beams together, and then we grout them from the top so that we make this one cohesive, one span that works together, that deflects together, that bounces together when the traffic's driving over it, and functions as a single unit. So one of the deteriorating issues is, as you can see, the underneath of some of these beams. The reinforcing steel has been, it's in a saltwater environment. The chlorides have penetrated the concrete, and some of the reinforcing bars in these beams have begun to rust. And as reinforcing steel rusts, it swells. And as it swells, the concrete spalls off. So that's what you're seeing here. The concern with not dealing with this very quickly now is that rust continues to swell. It continues to migrate further into the beams, and then we get a deeper problem and a more critical problem. We're not at that critical point now, but now is a critical time to get it fixed so we don't reach that emergency situation. As I described before, this is looking at one of those 28 spans from the side. And these are the locations right now of the post-tension strands. And what I mean by that is there is a conduit that runs transversely across to the other side of the bridge. And we run those high-strength cables through there. They have anchors on them. And we tension those cables to 43,000 pounds to pull these individual beams together and make the entire span function as one. These strands that are in these spans have begun to corrode, or they've begun to loosen. And so what's happening is we're beginning to see movement on the top. I don't know how well you can see this. I hope you can make this out, but where I have the arrows pointing there's a longitudinal crack that's forming in the asphalt. Right here, right there, and one there. It's not a concern that the asphalt is cracking, but what that tells us is there's a problem deeper below the asphalt. So as those strands loosen, as the individual beams begin to move, you begin to see that cracking reflect up through the asphalt. So that's telling us we've got an issue, in addition to the things that we're seeing on the underside. Here's another picture of the longitudinal cracking. All right, so what's our course of action? So this is a shot down on the causeway looking back towards the island. These are the 28 spans that we need to deal with. The support system is actually in fairly good shape. We need to do some additional work to that. Like I was saying before, we need to do some concrete repairs to the substructure. But it is best for us to replace the superstructure, which is to take all of those beams off of these supports and completely replace them. And what that entails, and these are just some photos from some other work that we have across the state, just to give you an idea. These are workers in the upper left that are setting the individual beams. And just to put the numbers out there for you, there are 392 new beams that we need on these 28 spans. So we have to haul out all the old ones and then haul in new ones and set them individually. And then the upper right-hand side is the steel cables that feed through the beams that we tension to that 43,000 pounds of force. And one thing that I'll tell you with the new design, there are a number of things that are different with our new design that's better than the old. And I can't speak to all the details of the specifications back in the 70s, 1972, when the bridge was built, the year I was born. So, but we have a lot of new spec improvements over time. The concrete beams have a corrosion inhibitor built into the concrete. It's mixed in with the concrete. Helps resist corrosion and rusting. And then the other major thing is, as I showed you in a previous photo, there are two of these strands in the existing design. The new design will have 6. So if we have a strand that ends up loosening or rusting out, we'll have 5 others that are there to help keep things pinched together. In addition, the bottom left photo is where the workers are pouring grout into a cavity on the top of the beams. That also helps lock things together. Less than 10 years ago, the grout that we used to use there was 3,000 PSI, and we figured out that that grout was not strong enough to withstand the movement between the beams. And so that grout is now to 5,000 PSI. So it's, again, there's 3 different improvements with the new spans as they go in. We'll have a completely new superstructure when it's all said and done. Another thing is the post and beam existing barrier rail on this bridge. We have this style of concrete barrier on bridges all over the state. And as you can tell, the number of connection points to the bridge deck are at these posts. You got a post there, a post here. There's spaces in between those. This is just an older design. It's no longer a standard that we use. And I know that there was a fatality back in December. There was a fatality in Charlotte with a similar type of design. I'm not here to tell you that this is unsafe, but I know that when hit at a certain angle with a certain size vehicle, obviously there have been instances in the past where it has not turned out well at all. So in the process of us doing all of this work, it is our intent to upgrade the bridge railing on the entire bridge. On the 28 spans that we replace, we obviously would have to pour a new railing because we're taking the old railing off. So the new one would be brought up to this standard. And while we're out here, it's our intent to take this new railing all the way across the new high-rise. So we're going to take off the old railing on the high-rise, even though we're not replacing those spans, and upgrade the railing on that. The top of the barrier is a 2-bar aluminum railing. So the bottom concrete portion, you can tell, is solid. It ties to the bridge deck continuously all the way across. And the 2-bar railing on the top is for pedestrians and bicycles. This is the same design as the new Oak Island Bridge. Some of the other repairs, and I don't mean for these pictures to frighten anyone, they look awful, but these are some of the repairs that are needed on the substructure, so down around the underside of the bridge. So you see some of the cracks. This is a footing. Got a pretty large crack there, and there's a piling with a crack. So we have plans to address all of these things and to add some additional corrosion protection as we do that work. So the detour route, I just wanted to touch on this quickly. Some of the, I know we've been asked quite a bit about how we would set the signs up for this. And I just wanted to make sure everyone understood that all of Long Beach Road, all of NC 133 will remain open to traffic. The only area that will be truly closed is past the last driveway or the last roadway intersection. We will not cut off anyone's access, but the barricades that actually truly close the road will be right up by the bridge. And just to give you a blow up of that, this is on the island side, and I hope everyone can make that out, but this is, forgive me if I'm pronouncing this wrong, but Yaupon Way?
Yopon.
Yopon, okay, so thank you. Sorry about that. And then you've got the diner and the home furnishing store, and there's another access here. So the end of the bridge is actually, I think, just off the north of the page. So this is all roadway that will help us with regards to staging area for our construction, but the barricades would be somewhere in here. So we won't block any of the access to any of these. On the mainland side, same situation. This is over by the airport. And this is Vanessa Drive. There are no further driveways past Vanessa Drive and the entrance to the airport there. So somewhere in this location would be where the barricades are placed. Again, giving us an opportunity for a staging area for our contractor to deliver materials, to store materials, and do this work. And that's where the barricades would be to still allow traffic on NC 133. Going back to the overall detour route, we would have to have barricades up, staggered on the shoulder of the road, showing where the detour is going to be at various locations around the detour route. We'll have changeable message signs that are in advance of the location, identifying the fact that the bridge will be closed. But those barricades will be on the shoulder. They will not be in the road. Okay, just a few construction schedule, contract details. It is our plan, and as Chad has indicated, we have tried to get this work done this fall so that we can avoid conflicts with the 211 project. And we are still developing this contract as we speak. The plans are scheduled to be turned in tomorrow. It will be advertised, I think, within the next week or two. And we actually let this to contract in May. I think it's typically the second Tuesday of the month or third. I didn't want to put the date on there just in case that date were to shift a little bit. The availability date would be July of 2018. That does not mean that we would close the road then. That's not what we're talking about at all, but that gives our contractor the opportunity at that point to begin some of the work underneath, to begin to mobilize, to get ready for the fall. And then the actual closure, and I hope this, I know that we're not here with good news today, but I hope this is a bit of good news for some. The press release went out and we had indicated that we were thinking 8 to 9 months of a closure. We are aiming for a 6-month maximum closure. It is our intent not to close the road until after the U.S. Open King Mackerel Fishing Tournament.
Thank you.
Which is in mid-October. Excuse me, it's in early October. Our closure would be in mid-October after that event. And then 6 months after that would put us complete in mid-April, which fortunately for us as well falls before the Easter holiday. And I know that's another time for the beach communities where things get busy again. So this is a very accelerated schedule in our opinion. This is a lot to be done while the bridge is closed in a 6-month window. But we have also an intent to provide some other contract opportunities to accelerate. One of the bidding mechanisms will be that the contractors can bid on the cost as well as the time. And it's a bidding mechanism we don't typically use all that often, but contractors may be able to come in with a plan to actually do it quicker than 6 months. I'm not optimistic that will happen, but we have some very aggressive contractors with very good game plans, and it's very possible they may come in with something better than that. One of the other things that we're trying to do in an effort to get this done and get out of there and of course give you your bridge back is an incentive. So there will be an incentive opportunity. It's our plan to put that in there so that if the contractor completes the work, for every day he completes the work sooner than that mid-April date, he will receive a monetary payment for every day sooner. And that number may be somewhere in the $300,000 range. We're still trying to put that, to finalize those details. So the contract completion date we have is summer of 2019, and one of the reasons that is beyond the April date, we may still need some time to complete some work underneath the bridge, and we also have the intent to pave, is it Oak Island? It's Oak Island Drive. So it's our intent when we walk away from here that we also will refurbish Oak Island Drive all the way down to Middleton, from Middleton to 133, and leave that in a much better condition. I think it was due for resurfacing. This is a perfect opportunity for us to clean things up as we leave. So with that, that's all that I have as far as the presentation, and I guess we'll.
Kevin, that was awesome.
Okay.
Chad, that's a lot better news than we heard to begin with. I'm really excited about the paving. I'm sure the citizens will be very grateful. I'm going to turn it over to Mary.
I do have a question. From your July timeframe, 2018 to October, when there'll be mobilization and your contractor will be working possibly underneath the bridge, will there be any lane closures at that time, or will both lanes?
We may have to allow lane closures, but during the summer months, or during what we would consider in season, what I would assume y'all consider in season, it would be nighttime closures only after 9 p.m.
Okay, thank you.
And then out of the road by 5 a.m. So we don't have any intent to impede traffic in the morning. The local folks going to work.
We appreciate that.
With all the added vacationers as well. So that's.
Yeah, that is our heaviest time.
Now in the off season, if outside of the closure window, if we have the bridge back open and we need lane closures, we have a little less restrictive times. We have off-peak times, so we certainly wouldn't restrict from 5 in the morning till 9 a.m. There may be some windows midday, and certainly would be out in the evening. And then they could do night work as well.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna let you take a few minutes break and ask Ms. Spa if she would come up to the podium and give us a little summary of what the Chamber of Commerce has in mind.
Thank you, mayors and council, for this opportunity to address the crowd and you as well. My name is Karen Spar. I'm Executive Vice President of your Southport Oak Island Area Chamber of Commerce. And on behalf of the Chamber Board of Directors and its 500-member businesses, thank you, NCDOT, for your continued commitment to public safety and improvements to our infrastructure. And we appreciate the information you've provided in the timeline increase, like shortening. Your chamber works hard for our members and the small business community. It is what we do. This closure has the potential to have impact on all areas of the business community and not just one or two sections or types of businesses. And by continuing to work together, we will showcase how mighty and vibrant our community really is. Your Chamber's Board of Directors, our Business Development Committee, along with our partner agencies with the BCC, Small Business Center, and SCORE, are working on a following for our business community. And we invite all of our businesses in our area to join us. The Chamber is creating a logo which will be used by the Chamber and available to our business community around the theme, "It's worth the drive, go local." We have assembled a list of free resources for small business counseling. We are compiling a list of ideas for small business plans and a checklist for you to go through your small business plan. The Chamber is creating a worksheet to help you adjust your business plan. We're creating a list of positive talking points for your businesses so that you can talk to your customers and to anyone that about why it's important to support your local small businesses and what you're going to do for your customers. We are arranging a marketing seminar series, and we are devising a co-op advertising plan across the multimedia. We note NCDOT has not taken this closure lightly, and the repairs are needed. We have also submitted our questions to the division and have been very responsive, so thank you. Again, we thank NCDOT for its continued commitment to safety of our highways, encourage our residents to go local, and to continue supporting our business community. If you're not a member of the Chamber and would like to make sure that we get you information on all that we're doing and want to join us in those endeavors, please contact us or give me your business card tonight, and we'll make sure you're included.
Thank you, Ms. Ball.
Thank
you. We also have a representative from the Oak Island Small Business. I think, Mike, raise your hand. I don't put you on the spot. Would you like to say anything? Sorry.
And now you're on the spot.
Mr. Mike Defoe, everyone.
Hi, my name is Mike Defio, and we do have an organization on the island called Oak Island Small Business. And it's a loose organization that attempts to represent all the businesses on the island. And this, this situation's one of those. I'm going to call it a threat to the business community that we all have to take seriously. To that end, but we didn't front it. Francesca Clemens was the one who was fronting it. A group of businesses last week got together to talk about the bridge closure, how it's going to impact us, some of the things that we can do, looking for some of the help we can get from the towns and from the Department of Transportation. And that was the big question that we had last week, was what kind of support, not money support, but what kind of support can the businesses hope to get from the two towns and from the Department of Transportation. I know there's a bunch of other business members here that hopefully are going to get up and ask some questions and give their opinions. But I think the thing that, in that meeting last week that I came out with, was that we're all taking this very seriously, and we all understand the impact that it can have to us. I'm sitting next door to one of my competitors in Southport, it's Edel Goose. In different ways, we're both going to be impacted. Gonzo's Animal House, which is our business, we're anticipating we're going to lose all the customers that we had on the Long Beach side, South Harbor, and we even had some customers down in Southport, and we really anticipate losing all of them. Edel Goose certainly expects to lose all the customers, or many of their customers, down in Caswell and on Yopon side of the island. As a group of small businesses, what we have to do is come up with a plan, and I think we had a good start on that last week, on how do we get to our customers, and how do we make it easy for the customers to get to us. I mean, we talked about providing delivery services for our products wherever it's appropriate. There's a number of other ideas that were thrown out there that we're going to be pursuing over the next couple months. But we are very interested to learn what kind of support we can get from the towns.
Thank you, Mike, and I appreciate your organization and the chamber and the towns and all the other towns. Us mayors met with the mayors of other towns, the regional mayors, and we have a strong support system, and they're all willing to work with us and do mutual aid, and we're working on plans right now. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as you ask your questions. Before we jump out there, I inadvertently forgot to allow us all to introduce ourselves to the audience. We have people from Castle Beach and Oak Island, don't know each other, so I'll start with my council and let you introduce yourself to our audience, Madam Mayor.
Sheila Bell.
John Bach, welcome.
Charlie Blaylock.
Loman Scott.
Mayor Brochure.
Deborah Ehlers, Mayor, Castle Beach.
Marty Hardy. Kathy Lupson.
Dan O'Neill.
George Castle.
All righty, David, would you like, and let me remind you that we're going to do a 3-minute limit on your question. And please give your name and your address when you stand to speak. Raise your hand if you want to speak, and David is on. He's ready. You ready, David? Look at him. He's so excited.
My name is Richard McKnight.
If you will stand up, it will be helpful. Thank you.
My name is Richard McKnight. My house is at 116 Southeast 8th Street here in Oak Island. My question is this. Could you tell me if you have talked about, and I'd like to know in detail, before the bridge was built in 1972, had to be a way to get across to the island. Have you discussed, and is it legal for you to close the intercoastal waterway and make a roadway through, where that dirt road is now? I'm concerned about people like myself that a few years ago I had a heart attack and had to go to the hospital. Somebody from Yopon Beach, they're not going to make it. And I think someone's going to be held liable for that. So could you tell me what kind of discussion you had about closing the intercoastal waterway and making a roadway through where the dirt road is now?
There were no discussions on closing the intercoastal waterway. That's out of our purview. We did talk an awful lot about mutual aid, and I believe there's some people here who could probably answer some of your questions in response to mutual aid and how it would be handled, especially with EMS.
I can answer the EMS questions. I'm Kevin Mulholland with Brunswick County EMS. We currently have
Kevin, would you mind stepping to the podium so we get this on the video?
We currently house an ambulance on the eastern part of the island with the Yopon Fire Department down there. We are going to keep that ambulance there as we see fit, as we can, because we're a static department. And what that means is that we have 10 ambulances on currently right now, and we go to 7 after 11 o'clock at night because our call volume decreases. And we're going to maintain that ambulance there as we can, because if there's 4 or 5 calls in Leland, we have to move our resources constantly around the county to make sure that we try to maintain a 12-minute response time. And so we will continue to move our ambulances around. We do have 1 ambulance on the island that is not going to leave. We also have an ambulance that's housed right across from St. James, and we are also that are paramedic level. And we also have partnership with Oak Island Fire Department, which is paramedic level fire engines. So if we need to utilize those folks, we can to respond to Castle Beach as paramedics, not as your primary fire service. I'm not here for fire, I'm here for EMS only. So we are not looking to reduce anything with the EMS response on your county or in your town, and we continue to provide you the same level of service that we are right now. So the ambulance is going to stay there the whole time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Is this for me? Okay.
I'm Ray Kane. I live at 21 Augusta Drive, so basically I get the long drive. And my business is in Southport. And this kind of has to do with the next project. You said something about the intersection of Long Beach Road. I was under the impression that 211 was going to be widened. But now it sounds like you're going to be doing something to that intersection again at Long Beach.
Thank you. I'm going to pull the map back up if I can. Okay, no maps. But I'm getting good on reciting this.
No, projector's not working, sorry.
Okay, we're good. So Long Beach Road and Midway Road are going from at-grade intersections to grade-separated interchanges. So you're correct with NC 211 being widened to 4-lane roadway from Midway to Southport, but we are putting in those grade-separated interchanges, a bridge, at those 2 intersections of Long Beach and Midway. The plans is for this project to start this fall of 2018, be complete by the spring of 2019, and then the interchange at Long Beach will start the fall of 2019 and be completed spring of 2020. I get those dates right? If you need those maps, just email me and we'll get you those maps of those interchanges.
Chad, we're going to also put this PDF on our website, the town's website, and Facebook, so you can get it from there as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
Ed Drzwicki, 128 Northwest 19th. Couple of matters. From the presentation, it said that 12,000 cars go over the bridge daily, and that means all that traffic is going to go down Oak Island at the intersection of the Oak Islands and Middleton, and then Middleton and 211. What are we going to do with that traffic flow that's going to be increased substantially? Because taking the left off of 211 downtown to the bridge, I could just foresee a tremendous backup of traffic, of traffic coming in from the Southport area down into Oak Island.
We have already had discussions with regards to the traffic signal timing at all of the key points around the detour. And as I understand it, none of those are coordinated, meaning that they don't work together. They're too far apart. You probably, there's some that are coordinated that sometimes feel like they aren't, but anyway, those are not coordinated. But it is our intent with the added traffic in the new direction, in that particular route to increase green times. And we've already talked with our traffic folks about getting out there when this work begins and actually making those adjustments to our existing signals. So that is a very good question, but something we've already talked about.
Thank you.
Do you have a question?
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. I'm Les Tubb. I'm your school superintendent, and there are a number of impacts that will happen with us in the school system. And first of all, thank you, mayors and council.
Thank you for coming. I didn't know you were in the audience, right? I introduced you.
Okay. And we would like to thank the DOT for their work in trying to maintain the bridge and the safety of the people of Oak Island and the kids over here, as well as those people who will come to our beautiful county and the resort areas that we have. A couple of things that it will cause us. We presently run about 7 buses. We have a couple of buses that run during the midday for our Exceptional Children's Program. But we run 7. We run on staggered, meaning that our high school, middle schools are picked up in the mornings, and then we, after dropping those off, we bring the buses back, and then we run the elementary schools. That won't be able to happen with the bridge. So we're going to have to put 7 additional buses at least over here on the island. It's going to cost us probably, and we figured it at the longer date, but the shorter date that you gave us, that's going to help us a lot. But on the previous information, about $116,000, $117,000. It's going to cost us about 50,000 additional miles if we were to run the routes for the full school year. But know that we are trying to work it so that we don't impact the pickup times and the arrival back after school from the schools for our students. However, that is probably a very real possibility that will happen. They'll have to be picked up a little bit earlier and dropped off a little bit later, because when you're adding that extra 10, 12 miles, 6 miles over the bridge, 6 miles back to Long Beach Road, that's 12, and our buses don't travel as fast as the cars. And I think the fact that you're talking about those additional 12,000 cars going over the bridge, it may impact us there also. But no, we're in support of what DOT is doing. We're part of Karen Sparr's group at the Chamber. But please know that we will work with you and try to help you, but it is going to cause some imposition for some of our students. And we understand that, but we'll make it as minimal as possible. So thank you very much.
We certainly appreciate you coming and taking the time to explain some of that. We have,
and I have my transportation director and my assistant transportation, and she lives on the island, so she's going to be here.
Oh, okay.
And you know what we're doing. So thank you for letting us speak.
So I'm assuming there'll probably be more detail on that closer to the time.
Yes, ma'am. As you get as DOT gets their dates and all, then we'll be able to put ours together.
Thank you so much.
I have a question for the school superintendent. Now, I didn't get his name, but
I'm sorry.
Les Tubb, just Les.
Les, is there any possibility to take the school buses and have their route changed to another street instead of Oak Island Drive, in other words, Yacht Drive, and use that, because that's going to pick it up?
We're going to look at every opportunity, and if that's what works the best, and I understand if you're coming down Oak Island with everybody else coming down Oak Island and the buses stopping everybody with our stop signs and having to, when it's just a 2-lane road, you have to stop both ways. But we will work every way we can and come back and talk with you about what we think will work, and then let you shoot holes in our plan also. Okay.
Thank you, Les.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions for Superintendent Tubbs before we let him sit down?
It's going to be fun, folks.
Thanks, sir. Can we change the speed limit to 45 so we won't
I'm Gerald Edwards. I live at 108 Northeast 47th Street, and this question's for the DOT guys. I was just wondering, once you start dismantling the part of the bridge that you're going to take down, could there be discovery issues that would increase the scope of the work that could, based on your experience with projects like this in the past, is there a likelihood of that? Thank you.
That's a good question.
There is a possibility of that. I would say this, that our structures are inspected very thoroughly every 2 years. So we have a very detailed inspection, a hands-on inspection, and it's gone over with a fine-tooth comb. So that's how the scope of work is identified to begin with. So we have a fairly good idea of what we need, but as we lift the old spans off, we may find some cracking, we may find some areas that we have to do some repairs on. But it most likely will be items of work there that we already have in the contract. So it will be things that we need to respond quickly to get those done so we can keep the progress going. So that's an excellent question. And if there's anything way out of the ordinary, we react as quickly as possible. Obviously, in a situation like this, we need to come up with a game plan quickly and address it. So.
Hi, I'm Tom Seamers, the CEO at Dosher Hospital. And hospitals looking at what services that we can move, medical services, diagnostic services, that we can move from on Southport side over to Dosher Wellness Center. But my question, I guess, is for the emergency services personnel, both at fire department, of course, leaders at Brunswick. What does it mean in terms of ambulance service routes, or how will we expect things to change from our facility?
Is our fire chief here?
Kevin Mulholland.
For EMS response times,
Okay.
it shouldn't differ too much. It depends on our call volume. We should be able to maintain our unit here on the beach, and then we respond to all points on the island side. When we have the other unit that's on the Southport side is responding to calls, they'll be able to respond down Long Beach Road as well. And then we also have another unit that's available to respond to calls in Boiling Spring Lakes. So we do have the area very well surrounded right now with paramedic level coverage. And then we can always ask for resources from Oak Island because, like I said, they're paramedic level, and so they can provide life-saving care for that. As far as transports, it depends on the nature of the call, because we do take patients. We do triage our patients, and we do take them where they need to go. If it's a trauma one, we're taking them to New Hanover, or it's STEMI, or the interventional strokes that we're treating now. So, okay.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lori Simpson, and I live on Caswell Beach. And my question is for the EMS, and also glad Dosher's here. So I'm relatively new, so I don't know how often you would airlift a patient, but I like that I hear that you are covered with your emergency vehicles and getting that care. So once you get your patient, the time is of the essence. So that's where my concern is. Time is of the essence. You've had someone who's had a major heart attack. How do you get them over to Dosher Medical? I mean, I liked hearing that you would have services over there, but how will you get them there? So you've covered getting to my house. How do you get the patient to where the services, and time is of the essence?
If time is of the essence, we do partner with New Hanover Regional, which does have 2 helicopters right now. And if they're available to fly, we can fly them, and we can pre-launch them. We can pre-alert them anytime we have a major situation, which we did today, and we pre-alerted them, and we did utilize that today. So, but that wasn't for this community. And so we oftentimes will use that to get the resources here, but we can land them right here. We've landed them on the park here before. We can land them on the golf course. We can land them anywhere the fire departments have pre-designated. Each fire department in this community does have pre-designated landing zones. They have landing zones. We only used the helicopters 16 times last year countywide. So we can use them anytime we want. Oftentimes we found that we can get there faster with diesel. So, but we also, if you're having a major heart attack, you are going to want to end up going to the cath lab in New Hanover, which you're going to be wanting to go up to Midway Road anyhow. We've got ambulance and lights and sirens. We have to go through the causeway into Wilmington every day. We also have to go into Myrtle Beach for their trauma center down there too. So Yeah, we've got it factored in, kind of. You know, we do respond through heavy traffic. We've been responding through heavy traffic here on July 4th for the last, 25 years, 27 years that the department's been in place. So,
David, I believe our Assistant Chief Conway might have had a comment to add.
No, I was just if I needed to.
Oh, okay.
He's jumping into the fray. But I don't really have anything to add to what you
All right,
already
good.
said.
I saw you jumping up and waving your hands.
So again, I'm looking for him.
Hi, I'm Warren Vassar, and I live in Minnesota Drive, South Harbor Village. And we had heard that maybe our fire department, and there's a fire department right there in South Harbor Village, that maybe some of those services would be split up over to the island. We weren't certain if anything was going on there. I didn't know if you were able to address that.
Now you're on. Now you're on.
He wants me up. I'm sorry, sir, I didn't catch your name. Warren. Warren? Okay. And it's not only for answer for him, I'm sure other people have them as well. I'm Steve Conway, I'm the Assistant Chief at Oak Island Fire Department. So yes, some things will change there. Right now, about a little over 90% of our calls, in both EMS and fire calls, are on the island. But we're not abandoning the station. We will have someone there at a minimum 5 days a week. One, to maintain equipment. We'll be maintaining equipment out there. We've made conversations with both Southport and St. James Fire Departments and EMS services, as well as Brunswick County EMS service, knowing that things are going to change there a little bit. Southport will be responding to all calls in the South Harbor area for us, and Brunswick County EMS, of course, will as well. Our fire marshal is actually, when he gets back from his vacation on Monday, his office will be stationed over there at the Station 3 on Vanessa Drive, and he will be working out of that station for however long. He's not going over there just because of this bridge issue. There's other reasons for it as well. Another reason is because he lives on that side of the bridge, and he is more than willing to respond to calls if necessary during the during his off time, if he's available to do that. Yeah, we've been through those discussions, but yes, our fire crew from that station will be moving to the Yopon Beach Station at 8510 East Oak Island Drive to provide support for the rest of the area. It will be a little bit inconvenient, but it's what we feel is going to work the best.
Will there be a significant response time difference? I assume you're going to be coming from right in downtown Southport to respond if we had, say, a fire.
It will be, yes, but there's also preliminary discussions with Southport Fire Department about moving some they do have a satellite station a little bit further on Long Beach Road, and I'm not going to speak for Yopon Beach Volunteer Fire Department, but their captain at a meeting yesterday indicated that they're in the process of making some adjustments too, and there will be conversations between all the fire and EMS people between now and that time. I mean, our conversation started, as a matter of fact, even before the official announcement went out by DOT, because the rumors were around, so we started planning. So.
We appreciate you looking into it.
Oh yeah, you're welcome. I'm here now if anybody else has anything.
Ms. Caswell, you can ask him. If we have to make him sit down, we can.
I'm Helen Cashwell, 3407 East Yacht, Oak Island. How do you plan on handling the traffic that comes out of St. James onto Midway Road? There's the particular one coming into the island where they make this funny little curve. Is there any way, because this could be at the tail end of the hurricane season, and it could be an evacuation problem, how do we plan on taking care of that?
DOT, can you address that?
Kevin pretty much addressed a lot of this earlier. We're going to continue to evaluate all the different intersections along this detour route during this job. We'll continue tweaking all this as we go. So, you know, like Kevin said, our division traffic engineer is looking at this to look at the timing on the signals. They'll also be looking at other intersections to see what kind of safety improvements we may need to add at those intersections during this time. So it's going to be a work in progress on those other type of intersections.
As more information becomes available, we will be in contact and we'll post everything on our website and social media as soon as we
Absolutely.
get the information.
Yeah, everything we come up with will be shared with y'all, and we'll send it out.
Any more questions from the audience?
I have a question for the DOT. My name is Matt Parv, and I'm with Oak Island Accommodations. How much of the 12,000 daily cars come out of the area north of, say, Bowling Spring Lakes on 87 or 133? And will there be signage as high as 17 to redirect that traffic down Midway as opposed to coming down their traditional route and then out 211?
I can't answer the 12,000 ADT question with regards to where all that comes from. I just, you know, we just pulled that data. I'm sorry. That's an excellent point, though. We can look at. We certainly haven't looked necessarily that far out with our plan, but we can certainly look at some of that routing down. And we actually thought about this the other day. It's possible that some of the folks that are actually trying to get to 17 may take Middleton Midway straight up rather than coming to 11, depending on where you're going. You know, so that's a definite possibility, and I'd have to look at the overhead mounted digital message signs that we have, and maybe we can utilize some of those with some of the things. But you know, if you get too far away from the area with messages, it tends to get watered down, and folks don't pay attention. But you know, there's definitely some things we can look at with that. Good question.
I think there was one over here on the Diane.
Hi, I'm Diane Benzie. I own the Coastal Cottage Shop at 4260 Long Beach Road, so I'm just over the other side on the mainland. One of the questions that was brought up last week at our meeting was that the electronic signage that I guess the DOT would put up that says local traffic only, that not be put up toward the 211-133 intersection way, that they put that sign as close to where the actual bridge closure is. Because if I were coming and it said local traffic only and it was at the top of 211 and 133, I would think unless I lived on Long Beach Road, I wasn't allowed down there. Yeah. And there's so many businesses. If we could somehow, with that electronic signage, put it as close to the actual closure on both sides so that people could then turn on Vanessa or into the airport and have ample time to turn around or go out Fish Factory Road. Alternatively, or in addition to, if we could have a way for those electronic signs to say, all businesses are still open, or shop local, you know, bridges closed, shops are open. Just something to help us and not hinder this, because we're all going to survive it. But if we could get just a little bit of help in those areas, I think it would make a big difference.
What was your logo, Karen?
It's worth the drive.
Go
local.
Say all businesses are open.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Very good points, very good questions. I think there still has to be some designation at 211 with regards to signing for the detour, because our concern would be if you allow all 12,000 cars a day to come all the way to the airport and not have a viable way to turn around. That's our concern. Really not. That is the concern, though. But I completely understand what you're saying. And we talked about it earlier today with regards to changeable message signs about local businesses open. We certainly can't, you know, designate business names or anything like that. There's so many on the route. But we mentioned something about a changeable message sign with some reference to local businesses open. And again, we would be cautious about where we place those staggered barricades at 211. They would be off the shoulder, but again, providing some designation to tell folks, look, you know, if you're actually trying to get to the island, you really need to go 211 to Midway or to Middleton. But we will look at all that we can do to help in any way with the changeable message signs within what we're allowed to do with those signs.
Or if there's a billboard that is close to that perhaps the towns could appropriate to say, you know, during bridge closure, you know, these shops are all open. Visit these local shops on Long Beach Road. And that at least would be some type of help. Sorry, my second question was a little out of turn.
That's right.
That's all right. Go to the back and stand in
Chad,
the corner.
was it when y'all did some work over by the college and you closed one of the roads, you had DOT signs that named the businesses that were on the road? Which road was it?
That happened on Middleton.
On Middleton, okay.
Yeah, give me a
All right, okay. So you know what I'm talking about. There was actually DOT signs that had the names of the businesses that were open, if I remember
I
correctly.
thought it was only one. There may have been two, but I
think
do
there's
remember
two.
the farm. But when you have, if you can imagine, when you have 50 businesses.
But if we had a DOT sign that said all businesses are still open?
We're going to work on
Okay.
that. Also, and I'm Karen Collette with the Department of Transportation. I wish I'd paid better attention when my communications people were talking about geofencing. Has anybody heard of that? Yay. All right, so it's kind of like in the internet world, apparently, and don't correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just trying to help here, but it's kind of like putting a fence around this community. And if you walk inside the barriers and you have your phone and you check in, or your GPS is clocking where you're at. Anyway, once you hit like this area, the internet somehow or another picks it up, figures it out. Well, if you voluntarily give your information to that, then next time you go on Facebook, fire it up, you might see an ad from the Department of Transportation that talks about this bridge project and what's happening in the place that you just left. And if you need to get there, this is how you get here, and this is the details of the project. I mean, it's a way to really get information out fast. And so that was mentioned, and obviously I'm not an expert on it, but it may be certainly a way, if somebody is at your business before the project, we can make sure they can figure out how to get to it during a project. So our communications department is very interested in this project and making sure that we do all we can do to make the public aware. Somebody, whoever's got the mic.
I'm Roberta Gundelsberger, Glen Cove Drive over in South Harbor. And you had said that you were going to write into the contract for the contractors that there would be a bonus, if you will, if they complete early. Is there something on the other end that's going to be there so that, you know, you're going to get $130,000 a day if you're good, but if you're bad, we're going to...
That's an excellent point. I've neglected to bring that up, but that we typically have an equal disincentive or liquidated damages, we call them, on the trailing end. So there will be a very severe penalty or the liquidated damages amount that will be set in the mid-October date if they don't meet that date. Then they're penalized every day for the same amount. I imagine that number will be high. I don't want to be quoted on what that is yet because we're still trying to iron that out in the contract details, but that's a very good question. Thank you for bringing that up.
My name's Mike Webster. I live at 819 Elizabeth Drive with my wife, Staffy, and we work for Cox Furniture. And we're about as close as any business will be to where they close the road. My question is staging. Will you work north to south and stage on the other side of the bridge, or will you be using Oak Island Drive as a staging route?
In order to try to do this in 6 months, we feel as though, and we can try to pre-predict what contractors will do. I have tried that for 20 years, and most of the time I get a pretty good idea what I think they're going to do in advance. But I think the only way they can make this work in 6 months is to begin in the center of those 28 spans and demolish the structure working their way out, which means they'll be hauling materials down Oak Island Drive and going out that way, as well as hauling it across the high-rise, and then bringing materials in from both directions as well. The staging area, though, with regards to your concern about a staging area, there is ample room between your business, from behind your business to the beginning of the bridge, as well as along the causeway there. And I also think that those, and I could be wrong about this because it depends on deliveries and the plans of the contractor, but I feel like the beams will be delivered as they are set. So there's not going to have a need necessarily to deliver beams and pile them up in a great big pile. We're not going to have room for that. In many cases, contractors that are building bridges like this will have the beams delivered, and as they come in, they're lifted off the truck and they're put into place, and the truck goes out. So it is tight quarters on the ends of those bridges. We need as much space as we can because contractors are going to have a lot of demolition debris that they've got to haul off. They are going to have to stage materials, but again, it's not going to be our intent at all to block anything with regards to your driveway entrances, although I realize that is an entrance point for the bridge and for the construction.
My name is Bob Lloyd, 4257 Anderson Drive. My concern is our homeowners insurance is based on our proximity to a fire station, and for sure, if this changes, to Southport, you need to take and contact your insurance company because their rates are based on that distance. I don't know who was to answer that, but that's just a concern of mine.
Here's Chief Conway.
I'm not an insurance person, so don't quote me on this, but the insurance ratings are set after the fire departments are inspected and they get rated, and that is a reflection of your insurance ratings. Right now, Oak Island's rating is a 5, and we don't anticipate an inspection. We do sometime in the next couple of years, but certainly not in the next couple of months because we get ample warning for that. And even if that were to happen, I'm sure that the Department of Insurance would take into consideration what's going on. And you're right, proximities to fire stations and the fire department's ability to respond within a certain radius is important, but I can't see that they would do something like change somebody's insurance rates because of that. I mean, you're still in the Oak Island Fire District. We're still a 5. Southport's actually a 3, so they've got a little bit better insurance rating than we do. So,
thank you. Raise your hand. Anybody? Okay, good.
Hi, Mike Pratt, 308 Northeast 58th Street. I believe I heard the construction engineer mention that you were going to resurface Oak Island Drive and perhaps Middleton as well while this is going on. And obviously, additional traffic due to the closure plus the construction traffic. Can we safely assume you're only going to be closing lanes at night for resurfacing?
So the intent is to do some deeper patchwork in areas that need it now. We will do, once the contract gets underway, and I mentioned that July availability date. So some of the deeper patching work would occur before we did the closure. And then we wouldn't do any of the resurfacing during the closure. That would happen afterwards. So after we got the bridge back open, then we would deal with the paving down Oak Island Drive. And I don't know right off the top of my head whether that would be night work or not. With all the residential areas, that might be a concern because we'd probably have everybody in town not very happy with us in the middle of the night with all that work. But the fortunate thing is that I think we have 3 lanes the full way, so we should be able to maintain 2 lanes of traffic through the whole area there while we're paving. So anyway, some of those details still to be ironed out, but we will not be doing that paving work while the bridge is closed. It's a good question.
Well, Tom Seamers from the hospital, but this isn't a hospital question. I sure enjoy riding my bike on Oak Island. I go back and forth across that bridge. You talked about those longitudinal lines, but if you've ever ridden a bike across that line, I mean, you can't hardly ride a bike across and not be in the traffic because those ridges are so high. You about knocked off the bike. So, just a personal question.
That's a very good question. So, the transverse cracks are the ones you're talking about. So we got the longitudinal lines, and then you've got the ones that run acrossways, and that is inherent with that type of design. We're not putting that back. So it should be better when we're all said and done. We're actually going to overlay the cord slabs, the new cord slab spans width is a polyester polymer concrete. It's been around for a long time. It's relatively new in our state. But it will be a concrete overlay, and there will be joints at each one of, I think, every actually third support. So it will be grouted and continuous across 3 spans or 2 or 3 spans, and then there will be an expansion joint. I'm just approximating here, but those joints should be smoother than what you're encountering with the asphalt bumps.
I got one more question for you. The pictures you showed of, I guess, 45-year-old bridge, it actually looks pretty impressive. It's no worse than that. Why is the high span not in similar condition, and when do you anticipate having to address that?
So the high span is a different design, but still needs work. So it is a girder design with a cast-in-place concrete deck. So the girders are actually spaced probably 6 to 8 feet apart, and then the bridge deck is across the top of that. But the decking needs some improvement. Some of those beams actually need some repairs, and that's a part of what Chad was mentioning with rehab and preservation. So while again it's not a critical issue right now, the intent is to get in there and address those now, so that preserves those beams for a long time. But those are a lot more substantial, and we use those similar type beams on the west end of the island with the new bridge. We'll call it new bridge, but it's with the other bridge. That is a girder beam structure with a cast-in-place deck as well. So, newer bridges like that are intended to last 75 to 100 years. Cord slabs don't typically last that long. I can't explain why they did that in the 70s, but that is the easiest and quickest way to go back with a very similar design when we're doing this replacement. And like I said, I think the newer design will last much longer than the old did.
I have one question for DOT, if I could. So, are you telling us that all the work on the bridge is going to be done in this 6-month span? It's not that you're going to come back in 2 years and do more, correct?
Not all work will be in the 6 months. We're still trying to define the overall contract time. So the 6 month will be what we call an intermediate contract time. So again, from July until that October period, we hope to get some things done underneath. Probably at some period after mid-April, we may again still continue to do some work underneath. We may have some things up top that we still have to finalize. Depends on how we iron out some of these details. But of course, that 6 month window is again our intent to get this thing open. But at 2 years from now, you can never predict what I can at least tell you this, it will not be a project of this extent. I feel confident there won't be anything quite like this for a long time.
Would you foresee that there will be repairs that will be needed?
Yes. I can't predict when that'll be, but there, old concrete, sometimes there are fine cracks that begin to develop and you begin to have issues, but again, we'll address those as they come up. I really do feel like, though, the work that we're doing on the top is going to last a very long time, and the issues that we may have, again, may be some more repair issues underneath.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
It's Mike Defio again. I have a question for DOT on the communications ideas that were talked about a little bit ago. I guess a little clarity on how the residents, customers, and businesses can take advantage of some of those ideas that you were talking about.
I didn't study what geofencing was those 5 minutes I was sitting there, so I can't tell you all the details, but apparently it's a very powerful web tool. I was going to say, I've joined certain, there were Facebook groups, like the Leland traffic group when the Causeway project was going on. That was a lot of fun, let me just tell you. And I was so glad to get off of that group. But I was there for a couple of years answering questions, giving them updates when they ask. And so if you have anything like that around here, I hate it, but I would volunteer to get on it if anybody had questions or something, you know, that information you'd like to get. And our communications representative is here, so I don't know what we've got planned or in store, but I know we have websites where you can actually like Google a project or say this is the project, and you go there and you get updated information. You can post questions and things like that. So we're here. I'm not telling you it's going to be painless, but I'm telling you that we are going to minimize all of the impacts that we possibly humanly can while we had the bridge closed. So.
Karen, I'll invite you, as well as all the other businesses, if they want to find out about geofencing. We're doing a webinar on that for you.
There you go. Sign me up.
Karen, is there any chance we can get one of those big circle turnarounds where you go the wrong direction like they got in Leland?
Where do you want that?
Huh?
Where do you want that?
I don't know. I'm open.
I thought you were on a roundabout somewhere.
My name's Ted Bodenschatz, 201 Ocean Drive. Just two questions. One for the Department of Transportation on why wouldn't we, in order to get the debris off of use a barge or something as opposed to going down the middle of the road here with construction. And the other one with the chamber. You know, as far as businesses and the services you were talking about, does that include small businesses that are not members of the chamber? Are they going to be available to them as well?
Most everything. There will be some things that are member only.
Okay.
Because of our membership.
Right, I understand.
But there will be a lot of things.
And where would people find out what's available? Are you going to have a...
If you'll leave your business card beforehand, we'll post it on our website, we're going to create a group, we'll post it on our Facebook page, and then the plan code will go.
Okay, thank you.
So we leave the disposal up to the contractor. Okay. But in the area where these spans are that have to be demolished, the water level is really shallow. And so to float a barge in there is very difficult. So it most likely in an area where you could float a barge to offload equipment would be on the high-rise portion, which makes it that much more difficult to actually lower the debris down onto a barge to do that. So I don't know exactly how they'll do that. We anticipate that they'll have to haul it on the roads to get it out.
Plenty idea.
I understand. Thank you.
I'm Ray Kane, and kind of on the same line of what he was talking about with the communications. I know that a lot of people aren't members of the chamber. My business is, but is there money that DOT has for communications or to put newspaper articles or to make a map or anything like that? Is there cash in this couple $1 million that will help us? I didn't think so.
Making me laugh.
We're going to be meeting on all the things that we can do, and I remember talking about geofencing project, updated web, and I mean, we're going to exhaust all the effort. But anybody's got suggestions, I can share them now.
One thing I'd like to mention is a project up in Surf City, that bridge replacement. I know we've been working closely with the town of Surf City and giving them updates. So the town sends out updates on their web page as well. So we'll do this with the towns here. Sound good?
Of course.
And that way you'll see the pictures, you'll see the progress. Also communications, we can help do some press releases. We'll be on top of that. and we can send out maps for those press releases. So we can work together on that. Just let us know what you need.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, any more final questions? We're scheduled to be in this meeting till 7, so got time for a few more questions.
If not.
Anything to say?
Can I say something real quick? I know a lot of,
Let me think. Should we? Anything?
Maybe. Would you send them say where you're from, please?
Go ahead, Councilman Biden.
I feel like Rodney Dangerfield. I just want to say, I know a lot of you out there, know a lot of the businesses and so forth, and I can speak, I'm sure I speak for everybody. We're here for you. I'm going to do everything I can to help promote what Karen said. It's worth the drive. And we're all in this together, and we'll make it. And thanks, DOT, for teaming up with everybody. Appreciate it, guys.
And I think, ditto what Charlie says, we're committed to doing anything we can think of that will assist within our means. And I think I heard Karen say she was going to do a video like we did. Are you? Okay, good. So, it's pulling together a lot of people that have actually, they've always been compatible, but they've never actually worked together. So I'm not saying it's a good thing that the bridge is closing and the business are going to have some impact, but it's a good thing to see our community coming together, and with sister town like Caswell Beach and Oak Island and all the other Southport and Boiler Springs and St. James, and all trying to help each other. And I believe that, as Joyce said, we'll get through this and we'll come out the other end hopefully better with a good, strong bridge. And thank you to the DOT for
Great presentation.
Yes.
Really, really nice.
Thank you.
We appreciate you coming.
Mayor, you have anything to say?
No, I don't. As I asked, does anybody here have anything they'd like to bring up? Okay.
All right, this time I'm going to do it, and then you.
Okay,
do
go
it,
ahead.
or either- I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the Oak Island Town Hall.
Before we do that, I have a comment, Madam Mayor. I want to commend the Department of Transportation and all of our first responders for beginning the process of planning in such a thorough and efficient manner. I think there are two critical issues that we still have to work on. One clearly is a comprehensive safety plan, one that anticipates fire, medical transport, potential evacuation from the island. I don't think we're there yet. I hear the beginning of that plan, the beginning of that discussion. I think that needs to continue until the public can actually see it. And the other issue is economic impact, and clearly the Chamber is working on that, but it is going to be a traffic nightmare to get people to these businesses. So I think that we really need to have a marketing plan and an internet strategy and municipal support to make that work for those 6 months. And to DOT, I would say, I hope that the plus or margin timeline on this project works as well as you suggest it will, with incentives and penalties or disincentives, whatever they may be. And I want to thank you for structuring it that way so that 6 months hopefully doesn't become 10 months. So thank you.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn
One
this
second,
meeting, please.
Councilman Bell, I'm sorry. I just noticed Chance. Chance, I'm sorry, I had not seen you before. Chance, come to the podium and
Introduce yourself, please.
do.
We saw you sneak in once or twice.
This is Congressman Rouser's assistant.
Folks, I just wanted to say hello. I just wanted to kind of come down here and learn a little bit more about what's going on tonight. I'm probably like the council here feels much better about the situation, and if there's something we can do for y'all, we're just right up the road in Bolivia, third floor of the courthouse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Entertain the motion now.
I will.
I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
A second, please. All in favor? Motion passed unanimous.
Okay, and for the town of Caswell Beach, we need a motion to adjourn this meeting, please.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay.
Thank you, guys. Good meeting.